Well, breaking updates this hour from Maharashtra, where Anil Deshmukh will be moving the High Court against the special PMLA court order denying permission to cast vote in Rajya Sabha elections tomorrow. So now we have where former Maharashtra Home Minister has said that he will be moving the High Court against the special PMLA court's order that came in earlier in the day denying Nawab Malik and Anil Deshmukh permission to cast their vote in Rajya Sabha elections scheduled tomorrow. Abhishek joins me live on the broadcast for more details. Abhishek, of course, we did see a setback to Anil Deshmukh and Nawab Malik when the court rejected their petitions, and now they're unable to vote for the Rajya Sabha elections. But now we're given to understand that Anil Deshmukh will be moving the High Court.
Yes, definitely. As we speak, there are very few hours left for the elections to start tomorrow, maybe around 12 to 13 hours, which is being expected. But definitely, as we spoke to the lawyer Inderpal Singh of Mr. Anil Deshmukh, he clearly said that he has got the certified copy of the order and he is approaching the Bombay High Court, and he hopes that the petition will be listed and he will pledge for the urgent hearing. But as the time is running, it seems very unlikely that the hearing would happen, and before that only the Rajya Sabha polls elections it will be done. So definitely it's a huge setback on the part of the entire MVA and collectively because they are losing on 2 surplus votes, because definitely Sena, Congress and the NCP are confident of winning single seats each, but the 4th seat where of Sena, which requires surplus plus independent plus smaller parties vote, where there will be a setback, because now 2 of the people not able to vote is something very important. But as we speak, still there are strategies being formulated in every camp, whether it is MVA or whether it is BJP, and rounds of meetings are happening. Yesterday, MVA was, confident enough to speaking to Samajwadi Party and getting their 2 MLAs. And as we are also hearing from the sources that Imtiaz Jalil of the MIM party is in Mumbai and he will be meeting senior leaders of the NCP. So MIM has 2 MLAs with them. So that is some meeting is also crucial. Those MLAs can also be a part of the MVA camp. And at the same time, there are certain MLAs as smaller parties MLAs which earlier backed the MVA in the time of formation of MVA, but are reluctant right now. So, process is also on to convince them and back the entire MVA. At the same time, BJP is also formulating a strategy wherein they are asking for the independent MLAs as well as the smaller parties MLAs to come forward and vote for them. At the same time, they are also, there are 3 candidates, Piyush Goyal and Anil Bonde are sure to be elected. But at the same time, the 3rd candidate which they have placed is something where the bone of contention is, and he is Mr. Dhananjay Mahadik. So definitely we will have to wait and watch on the 10th of June whether the Sena's Sanjay Pawar or BJP's Dhananjay Mahadik will get the surplus plus the independent and the smaller parties MLA vote, and they will be elected to the Rajya Sabha.
Right, Abhishek. Thank you so much for getting us all those details. I'm now joined by Kailash Vastev, who's a senior advocate of the Supreme Court. Thank you so much for speaking to Mirror Now. Appreciate your time. I'd like to ask you about Anil Deshmukh's move. Would his appeal sort of yield any results? Definitely, we did see NCP in the past cite certain midnight hearings by the Supreme Court, but here we're talking about the High Court. Do you think approaching the High Court at this last minute, just hours before Rajya Sabha elections, would perhaps yield any results?
See, approaching the court is a right of a person. And today the courts have become sort of aware of the fact that most of these arrests which take place at these take place in many cases are questionable. So therefore the courts exercise the jurisdiction because liberty is a fundamental right in our system. So the approaching of the High Court at the last minute is within the rights of a person. I see nothing wrong about that. It is very much a part of the democratic pattern and the functioning of the judicial system.
Right. But what about the outcome of the appeal? How do you see this? Which way could it possibly go?
Look, it's very difficult to predict what will happen in judicial proceedings because a lot depends on prosecution, what kind of evidences are led, what kind of charges are eventually framed, because these are all at the nascent stage just now.
Right.
So it is very difficult to say what the future will be, because we have noticed now that a lot of cases which have been filed turn out to be bogus cases, and the judiciary is stretching itself out to strike down cases which are false and without any foundations. So it all depends on what kind of evidence comes. A lot of cases, you see the cases under sedition, you see all sorts of cases which are filed and eventually they result in an acquittal. So it's very difficult to predict as to what would happen as the time goes along.
Right. Also, Mr. Vasudev, I'd like to ask you, just to get an understanding of the law here, is it possible for anyone to deny the fundamental right to vote? And here we're talking about Anil Deshmukh here. He's an accused. He's not a convict. So considering this, can his right to vote be denied when it comes to Rajya Sabha elections?
I don't think so, because it is not a disqualification from the House, you see. You may charge a person and accuse him of different offences, but he's not been suspended from the assembly at all. He's still a valid member of the Legislative Assembly. You can't suspend his rights.
Right.
I don't think there's any order by the Speaker.
Right. So that's an important take there, where you cannot suspend his rights because he's an accused and not a convict. There. Thank you so much, Mr. Vasudevan, for...
No, not only that. He's still a member of the House.
Yes, I agree. All right, so there you heard it, some important points being made by the Supreme Court advocate there. Thank you so much, Mr. Vasudev, for speaking to Mirror Now and sharing your perspective. Well, staying with updates on this particular story now, soon after the news broke of the two NCP leaders being denied the right to vote, advocate and leader of NCP, Majid Memon, spoke to my colleague Apeksha. He says he's shocked at the way in which the court denied individuals the constitutional and democratic right to vote. Listen in.
With respect to the Honorable Court, I have to express my shock, because you see, not allowing the two ministers, one ex-minister and one current minister, to exercise their right to cast vote in an important Rajya Sabha election, is something rather shocking. They are not terrorists. They are not, you see, people with such background that they have been indulging in criminal activities. And I'm afraid why ED and CBI were so stubborn to oppose this application, because they were not seeking bail. They were not asking liberty. They were ready even to be escorted by the prosecution of police officers. They were only wanting to cast their votes. But I'm really disappointed at the manner in which the court has taken up the matter and has ultimately decided that they be not allowed. Although there is no time now for appeal, but though we have respect to the court's order as an officer of the court myself, but I am really surprised that such permission ought to have been granted.